Does a lot if it is or if it isn't, but however, doesn't really matter to me, to be honest with you.
What does it say if it isn't?
Just how people feel.
Okay. Yeah, I mean.
Go ahead.
Well, you can ask the question because I know
No, do you think it's his last year? But you've been kind of saying this.
Well, I want to be very clear. I am not 100% confident this is his last year in Dallas. Where I am fully confident is any contract he signs is going to happen after the year, which is either maybe the Cowboys will end up, being at the top bidder, or maybe Dak will, a year from now look around and be like, the Giants, that turf and that, not interested. So I am not guaranteeing, or whatever that's worth, that Dak's done in Dallas after this year. What I feel fully confident in is what he seems to be fully confident in, which is they're not meeting my price in the next week. He says, it says a lot if it is or if it isn't. Meaning, you don't value me the way I feel I should be valued. Right. Which, by the way, for as much criticism as I give Dallas for how they do business, for the noise, as Brew talks about, if I were running Dallas, I wouldn't want to make Dak Prescott the highest paid quarterback in football either. I think he's good. I don't think he's good enough to carry you to a Super Bowl with those weapons that you would, the team that you would have to kind of tear down at that price point. So I don't blame them for not wanting to pay Dak, 4 years, $250 million. I blame them for being in the position where if they don't want to pay him that, they're going to get nothing for him because they can't trade him, they can't tag him. I blame them for painting themselves into this corner. I don't blame them for saying, we don't want to make the 9th best quarterback in the league the highest paid by a mile. I don't blame them for that.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let's say they have, their typical year, win 10, 11 games, lose in the first or second round of the playoffs. Are you paying him?
No, I would.
You just let him walk.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a terrible spot to be in because you should, in that spot, then trade him for a first-round pick and something else. They've put themselves in a position where they can't. I know at some point it kind of feels like I'm in reruns on this. There's a lot of ways we've seen teams win a Super Bowl. The mid-level, above-average quarterback like he's great, that's the one we don't see. We've seen bad quarterbacks win Super Bowls. We've seen young quarterbacks win Super Bowls. We've seen great quarterbacks at all ranges of the salary scale win Super Bowls. He's pretty good, and he's paid like he's the best. That has never worked.
There
in the
are a
salary
lot of
cap
people
era.
that would say Matthew Stafford, and I know everybody loves just talent and all that, but there are a lot of people that would say him coming from Detroit was about what Dak Prescott is now. Right? He had, like you said yesterday, he made one Pro Bowl. He obviously never won even one playoff game, and they won the
listen,
Super Bowl.
that, Brew, and then I'll let you go. That is a very fair retort that I'm probably biased on because I hold Stafford in such high regard. You know what I mean? But you're right as far as his resume. He didn't have the playoff success. He had good, gaudy numbers. But I just hold Stafford's talent and ability in a different tier than Dak Prescott.
I thought this interview with Dak was very telling. And I thought one thing it did, it said to me, he does want to be a Cowboy. Like, if everything's equal, beyond if everything's equal, he wants to stay with the Cowboys. And I say that for two reasons. One, when he was asked, is it important you get a deal done before the season, he had a long pause. He did not look to me like a guy that was like, I'm good. Like, if I don't get my money now, I'm getting it next season, next summer, and I might be in another team, but I am good. He looked like a guy that is frustrated and bothered that it hasn't gotten done.
Can I ask a silly, kind of elementary question? Do you think his feelings are hurt?
Yeah, it looked a little to me like his feeling, like he is hurt. Because when he answered, it says a lot about how you feel. And I do think you may be right, Nick, in that maybe they're offering him 53, maybe even 55, or maybe it's lower than that. But he's not feeling good about the offer that they're making to him. And I really feel and I'm more with Wilds that I do think this still has a really good chance of getting done because it looks like if they offer him 58 or maybe it'll be 60, it has to be 60. But if they offer him that before the season, I think he'll take it. He didn't look to me like a guy that's like, I'm good either way.
What-
I'm getting paid next year, and if I have to go to Pittsburgh or the Giants to do it, I'm fine. He looked like he's bothered and hurt that they haven't valued him the way he thinks they should.
What I don't understand about the optimism that this is going to get done is I know that Jerry likes to stay in the news. I get all of that. But if they were going to offer, let's say that Todd Francis told him it's going to take 60. 60 is the number. If they were going to offer that, is there any explanation for, we are now 7 days away, 6 days away from the start of the season, for them not having done it by now? It's clearly wearing on the team. It's wearing on the owner who makes the decision. Like, both of these guys' quotes are getting hotter and hotter. Jerry's dropping a half dozen F-bombs to Clarence Hill. Shout out to Clarence for his new website. Good luck to him on it. Dak started 3 weeks ago with the, no, I'm going to say it. And, remember when he was at the press conference and paused and was like, you know what, I'm going to say it. A lot of great quarterbacks have had to move on. I'm paraphrasing. Like, it's ratcheting up. If they always were going to pay it, Wilds, then why haven't they done it?
Because they need to ratchet up a little bit.
Just for this?
Just for
our
this.
shows?
It's got to get a little bit of like, oh, we made it. Now we're here. We're ratcheted. There's tension. There's a little bit of frustration. Good news. This was all Jerry's kind of, the CD thing just played out like that as well.
They just did CD. That's what they did with Ezekiel Elliott. It's a little different, obviously, Emmitt Smith way back, but they did play 2 games without him and saw they had to have him. But, yeah, this is what they do. Right or wrong, and it's wrong, I think, but this is what they do.
Can I pitch you something that what you said reminded me, Brew, about like his feelings are hurt and he wants to be with the Cowboys? Because you always talk about Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins bet on himself, got this huge deal from the Vikings. Then he did it again. Now he's in the Falcons. Man, you're going to look at Kirk Cousins' career when it ends and be like, hey, Kirk Cousins, right? Remember, he was in Washington, and then he was with the Vikings, and now he's with Atlanta.
Correct.
And it's just going to be like,
Right.
Hey, good job. You're in the NFL.
Yeah.
I don't think, and he might win the money contest, but that's different than being the face of the Dallas Cowboys. I think it's the exact opposite. It's a little bit like what we talk about, like Paul George, bouncing around. Like, man, if you just stayed like Reggie Miller in one spot, you could be an icon.
So I agree with that to an extent, except the face of the Dallas Cowboys cuts it both ways. Like, who I think is one of the most unfairly maligned quarterbacks of the last 20 years? Tony Romo.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I don't want to argue about Tony right now, but I thought Tony was better than he was given credit for because his failures were so magnified because he was the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. Like, nobody cares that Phillip Rivers made one conference championship game ever, was on multiple 12 or 13 win teams that went one and done in the playoffs.
But now he's a guy still. He's still relevant. Phillip Rivers literally coaching high school.
Yeah, but, okay, well, yes, you do have better post-career broadcast opportunities as the Cowboys quarterback. I don't know that Dak's into that. Point I'm making is being the Cowboys quarterback, if you're Troy, is amazing. If you're not that, it might actually be worse than Dak and Kirk Cousins' playoff success, regular season success, all of it is almost identical. We don't talk about Kirk Cousins in the same negative tones nor the positive tones as Dak. And so that you know what I mean? So I just think it cuts in both directions.
Dak Prescott is a celebrity. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Why? Because he's the Cowboys quarterback. If he was doing this, now last year he did have, he's had some good seasons, obviously. Last year was his best in the MVP conversation. But before that, he was a celebrity because he was the Cowboys quarterback. If he were somewhere else doing the same thing, he'd be a good quarterback, make a couple Pro Bowls, but not, we wouldn't talk about him in a positive this way.
But the question is, and I don't know Dak personally. I forget some stand-up comedians, like, what's better than being rich and famous? Being rich. Like, the idea that, like, the fame is not, for some people, you'd rather be Matt Ryan. Like, and I know Matt Ryan made a Super Bowl and won a league MVP, but, like, everybody knows you're good. Nobody has hot takes about you. You go about your business. You collect your money. And so I don't know Dak well enough, but it's absolutely on the board that Dak's like, okay, my fame cup is as full as it's going to get. Sure.
In that case, maybe you go somewhere else then.
Yes.
To a real football franchise,
Right.
not a soap opera. I mean, I'm just saying, like, really.
All right, coming up after the break.